Hello. Today I'd like to continue the conversation that I started in the last video. And specifically, I want to talk about how to build your self-esteem. Now, I mentioned in previous videos that there's a really strong link between performance and self-esteem, and they're self-reinforcing. The humanist Carl Rogers believed that there were actually three very different parts to this idea. The first one was this idea of self-image, how you see yourself. And by the way, just to make the point, your self-image isn't always accurate. It doesn't always coincide with reality. You might have an inflated self-image, or indeed you might have the opposite. You might be prone to having a negative self-image. But this idea of a self-image, how you see yourself. And the second element, according to Carl Rogers, was this idea of the self-ideal, or how you wish you could be. The aspirational aspect of you, for this person you would love to be, the person you want to become. And the third element, according to Rogers, was this thing of self-esteem, i.e. how much you value yourself. And he made the point that a number of different factors impact one's self-esteem. So, for example, how we compare ourselves to others is really, really important. How others respond to us, another really, really important aspect of self-esteem. So when people respond positively to us, to our behaviour, to things we accomplish, so we sort of develop a positive self-esteem. And when we compare ourselves to others and find ourselves lacking, or when people feedback that we're lacking, it can have a negative effect on our self-esteem. So these three elements, self-image, self-ideal and self-esteem, are the three elements that Carl Rogers said, make up this thing he called self-concept. And our self-concept, again, is not always aligned with reality. According to Carl Rogers, the degree to which a person's self-concept matches reality is known as congruence. And this is really, really important, because while we all tend to distort reality to a certain degree, congruence occurs when the self-concept and the self-ideal are fairly well aligned to reality and to each other. And I want you to imagine two circles and the overlap. And the more the overlap, the more congruent we are, the closer we are, that the self-ideal and the self-image are the same and are in touch with reality. And of course, if there's a mismatch, if they're not overlapping, or they're only overlapping a little bit, then of course self-esteem is low, because how you see yourself, your self-image, and what you'd like to be, your self-ideal, are quite different. The person you think you should be or want to be, and the person you think you actually are quite different, and as a consequence, your self-esteem is lower. If there's congruence, high self-esteem is the outcome, is the result. And this high self-esteem, where you have a positive view of yourself, where you have confidence in your own abilities, self-acceptance, not worrying about what other people think about you, a sense of optimism. This is what comes out of it. And the low self-esteem, of course, leads to the exact opposite, a negative view of ourselves, wanting to be, to look, to act like somebody else, always worrying what other people think about us, and of course pessimism. So the point to remember here, and this is the key point I think in this little video, is we can choose how we set ourselves up for success. And one way of doing it is setting realistic objectives and measuring the results that we're generating. Because if we set realistic objectives and we have our list of inputs, I keep talking about the things to do. Remember, success being the progressive realization of predetermined worthwhile personal goal, a thing at the present moment. If we have these realistic objectives and these steps we're going to take, and we're ticking the boxes, we feel successful. And the sense that the person I want to be, the person I think I should be, and the person I actually am are congruent. And this builds self-esteem. And what this happens when this self-esteem builds, self-confidence builds, and this becomes a self-fulfilling virtuous cycle of self-esteem growing, confidence growing, and success growing, and the ability to deliver and achieve goals and objectives growing. And of course, the converse is true. unrealistic goals, which a lot of people say. They talk about stretch goals, they set these unrealistic goals, or they're measuring the gap between where they are and where they want to be, this ideal, which of course is always expanding, always developing, always growing. They're measuring that expanding horizon, the gap between now and here and the horizon, and of course that leads to the opposite. So one leads to a virtuous cycle of continuous increase in congruence and success, and the other to a vicious cycle of disappointment, reduced confidence, I suppose, and decreased capacity. So I want you to think about this, the idea of setting realistic goals, outlining the steps to achieve it, moving into action, and feeling this sense of congruence between the person you believe you are and the person you want to be. Nothing motivates like success, and success only comes from action. And the action has to be right action, steps that you believe are taken to a realistic goal. So think about this and think about it as a model. I think it's a great way. I really believe in this. I think it's a great way to build your self-esteem and build your confidence. Set realistic goals, set the steps to get there, and start ticking the boxes, start doing them, and just watch your self-esteem grow. So I wish you luck.